Uh, Hello, and welcome to episode 69 of Flesh and Pod.
This is why we had Flake on.
This is why we have Flake on, yeah. We're joined in this episode by the venerable, not the venereal disease. I have learned that there are different things that there are flakes of. Matt DiMarco has joined us at the desk because we could not do a proper 69th episode without this man coming to the Sandals Resort of podcasts, where he can say anything he wants, any way he wants, and not get into any fucking trouble. Flake, how you doing, buddy?
I noticed that you looked at the clock there, Logan, before you said it.
You're right, I did.
30 seconds. I saw you glance.
I did it. I fucking landed that plane is what I did.
I need you guys to do me a favor, okay? I need you guys to not get too popular because where too many people listen to you. Because like you mentioned, this is kind of my vacation spot. This is my resort where I can speak a little freer. It's kind of like the permission to speak freely, Captain kind of place. So the more popular you get, the higher my chances of someone hearing this and canceling me. So we need you to just plateau at a digestible kind of level until
I think we're there because we still never had a preview card or anything. So I think we're right in the fucking lane you need us to be in. And
I wonder why. I wonder why, as we're watching the clock like it's fucking New Year's Eve, waiting to drop the fattest F-bomb, and you're just be like, where the fuck is my preview card?
Yeah, well
it doesn't help that when we have Alex on, the very first thing I do is give him crap about not getting a preview card.
Immediately. First fucking thing.
I don't even
just
warm
Band-Aid
him up.
ripped
No
all the way off.
just straight up. So Alex, I hear that you don't like giving us preview cards. And then later I ask him a barrage of questions under the guise of being multiple people. Yeah.
He was not fooled, by the way.
Oh, are you sure? Are you sure
I'm
that
pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure his head hurt from all the hints I was dropping on it.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. You were the type of child that fucking picked scabs, weren't you? Like you just.
That's disgusting. That is absolutely. I just spent a weekend sharing a room.
I want to be 100% clear. I mean the ones of my enemies.
Ooh,
still disgusting.
Still disgusting, but
yeah.
So
that they were injured.
Anyway, now that we've derailed,
is that technically cannibalism?
Yes. Yeah.
It's scabitalism.
Well,
guys, just do your fucking intro, man. I don't know how much of this I could take.
Listen, I gotta get us back on the rails. So it's the 69th.
I've been drinking. It's not dry anymore.
Yeah, it's the 69th episode, and Logan has been drinking, and Flake and I spent the entire weekend in a hotel room together practicing for the 69th episode. So I'll let you do the math on that.
So, Logan, what have you been up to in Flesh and Blood this week?
Well, it's you first, buddy. So you're up first. Yeah, what have you been up to in Flesh and Blood this week? I think the answers are going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, I think we've all been up to the same thing, which was just basically watch this this idea that sort of was birthed long ago by Keith and Realm and etc. come to fruition in ways that honestly I thought was blew everything expectations out of the water. It didn't seem like a big deal when you're there. It felt like, but I think that's testament to just how good it was, because you were there and it felt like a calling. It felt like a battle hardened. It felt like a big deal. And when you're looking at the result of the weekend, which was this Realm Brawl in partnership with MinMax as like the first major stop on this circuit that we have the privilege of being a part of. Like 117 players, I think, or over 110 players playing. The side events were firing off nonstop. The Blitz event was great. And what blew my mind was that there was nearly 1,500 people watching this on YouTube, like live.
Perfect. That's fantastic fucking numbers is what that is.
Yeah, well, I forgot what it was, if it was like the first Realm event that we did, like their Battle Hardened, I think it maybe cracked 500 to 600 at the peak.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
In all honesty here, those are very fantastic numbers for community run events. So 1,500 people is like 3 times more than I would have said was a success. And so this was a just explosion of it, a success.
Yeah, looking at this from, and then we're just going to kind of fucking skip the whole what did you get up in Flesh and Blood thing, because I think we just covered it anyway.
I wanted to talk about what I got up to in Flesh and
Fine.
Blood. Desperately.
Then do it. Don't make me wait any longer, or fucking talk about it.
I got to meet DM Armada, and I have never met him prior to this weekend. And I have to tell you that I was shocked and I was surprised at how unlikable that little bastard is. He is so mean. All he did was like diva, and like when we were getting ready to cast, right? It's me and Flake. We're just sitting there, we're minding our own business, and the dude like Ric Flair struts up to the casting desk and says that he wants to be in, and we're gonna do a 3-man desk because he refuses to sit out. And then he like wooed, like Ric Flair does. I can't even do it because my voice is so shot, but it was honestly a little unsettling, a little terrifying.
It was
no,
more
all jokes aside, DM, I love you. If you ever hear this, I know you won't because I know you don't watch this show. But if you ever do,
thank God.
It was more so Ric Flair, not just the strut and the woo, but the fact that as soon as he sat down, his forehead started bleeding while he was writing an alimony check.
That was actually me in the hotel room.
Yeah. Woo! Oh yeah. Well, that was the other thing. Where's Charber? Yeah. No, he sneezed and his brain fell out of his nose. So.
Oh no, it was where's Flake? And Charmer went, I think he's 69ing Steven somewhere. Like, okay.
Okay, that was actually a real story. I did say that to Logan. Yes.
Well, because some fucker abandoned us at the putt shack or whatever it's called to go draft at the hotel. Didn't say anything. Not word one to his ride, and just disappears. And I'm like, has anybody seen Flake? And Charmer just straight up deadpans. And I think he's off somewhere 69ing Steven. And I'm like, is that do you just call that a 6 at that point? I mean,
his beard tickles.
No, that's fair.
It's a true 69. See, we're about to really go off the fucking rails here, gentlemen.
We've been off. It's fine.
So, this is something that's always bothered me because people refer to all sorts of oral sex that reciprocates by just 69. However, that's strictly male to male in my book, and that what most people refer to would be a 68. Because when you have a woman,
don't you fucking dare
have the little
don't you
extra,
fucking dare.
I'm just saying.
My favorite is the 11, where you just lay silently and don't look at each other
and fall asleep.
Mine's the 4. I'm gonna let you figure it out
on a couch together.
Yeah, this is the funny part about this entire weekend is like, look, we got into the room and it was just like one big queen bed or whatever, and I have no problem. Like Charmer's like my brother. Like I would happily share a bed. It's not a big issue. The problem is that we get back to the hotel room. We're like eating pizza. We're chilling out. We're doing whatever. This guy is like playing Candy Crush Legends or something like that on his phone until 3 a.m. And we're there watching TV. And I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. And lovely Charmer like shuts the TV off, shuts the lights off, whatever, goes to bed. And I woke up and it was like 4 o'clock. And I was like, I'm committed. Like I'm pot committed here. I'm just gonna sleep on the couch. And I was like, I'll get a good night's rest tomorrow. The next day, it's like it's the same damn thing. And we even went to the room even like earlier than the night before. And same thing happened. Watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia until like 2 a.m. I totally dadded it and fell asleep on the couch. And this guy goes to bed, shuts the lights off for me, like the lovely person he is. And then I woke up again at like 6 a.m. I'm like, yeah. Pot committed, baby. Get another hour on this couch. Let's go.
And I was so polite, like just in case he woke up, right? Because I was like, all right, maybe he will wake up. He'll want to come to bed. I made sure to sleep naked just in case, but that fucker just
apparently
left me
he
hanging.
Yeah. Oh well. So let's get into a Brawl recap really quick and talk about
we should probably talk about Flesh and Blood.
We
talked about flesh by means of sleeping naked and the blood that you spewed out of your nose.
Seriously, when I got that nosebleed, there was a crime scene in our bathroom. It was so bad.
What did you do?
I legit just went to blow my nose, but I've broken my nose twice. and so I'm prone to nosebleeds. Like,
Oh, please
have
tell
been
me
my
it's another
entire
one of
life.
those stories like how you fucked up your arm, you know.
Yes, every time that I've ever hurten myself, it is
Hurtin'?
yes. Well, okay,
No
listen,
notes.
it's been a long day. Every time that I have ever destroyed myself, there. Wait.
Oh, my favorite.
Anyway,
What's your
the point.
favorite Johnny Cash song? Is it "I Hurtin' Myself Today"?
Well, that's a Nine Inch Nails song,
No.
but okay.
But
Okay,
Cash did it
all
better.
right, real
Of
talk. The
course.
only reason that I keep saying hurtin' is because whenever I start to go down that path mentally, I immediately think of my favorite Matt DiMarco book, because he's a published author.
Don't
He
do
has
it.
written both The Stoic, which is a real book you can find on Amazon, go find it, as well as Hurtin' for a Squirtin' too, Electric Boogaloo. And so I say hurtin' in my head. I'm sorry. Anyway, moving on. My point here is that every time I've ever destroyed myself physically, it has not been something cool. Both times I broke my nose. Both times I broke my nose. First time I was doing martial arts, I kicked myself in the face. I wish I was making that up. I straight
Seek
up
the enemy within, Charber.
myself in the
Jesus
face.
Christ.
Okay. Second time, I face planted hard trying to do something really, really stupid, and then also busted it. So yeah, it's never the only time that I've ever been physically injured, like that was noteworthy, and it wasn't my fault, was when I got hit by a car head on a bicycle, and that was the second time I broke my tailbone. But most of the time, it's just like me killing myself.
Well then, I'm glad that we discussed all that, I guess.
You know what? I sincerely hope if you can hear this, Keith, because I'm sure that you have now crashed your car from laughter. I hope that you're okay. I hope that 911 gets there in a reasonable amount of time. I just have this mental image of like Keith listening to the podcast on Wednesday morning on the way to work, and he gets to hurting for a squirtin', and then he just like ends up in a ditch somewhere.
I mean, he'd probably say it was worth it, to be honest. So like back to the brawl, which is the thing we were
Brawl.
all at. I think our weekends all started roughly the same, where I think we all got in on Friday, and due to the largesse and kindness of the Realm Games, we were all drafting in the second floor lobby of the DoubleTree. I didn't last that long because they said that we couldn't have drinks up there anymore. So I went to the bar for 5 minutes, which turned out to be 3 hours, per Stephen Cookus's math. And oops, I guess, whatever. And but what else happened there, boys? Like it seemed like the whole community was kind of just gathered around doing the thing. That's one of the things I love about this, these people and the community we have and everything else, is that like there was nothing official going on at all. It was just, oh, you guys are drafting? Yeah, come on down. We'll get another pot of 8 going. Like that always is the best feeling to me. I absolutely love that part of it.
I was like, but this is the kind of thing that you see at all these events, and this is why it felt like a calling, because it was a big enough event and an important enough event that a lot of the big names arrived there. Like you had the Dan Rutkowskis, you had the Brody Spurlocks, you had the Michael Hamiltons out there. It's a lot. Levi Ratch. I can go on and on and on about the wonderful, awesome pros that were playing there. Which one of the things, like when you're evaluating the impact of this tournament, what people need to understand is that there was a lot of people who had to make a hard decision of what they wanted to do, because they were up against the Battle Spirit Saga like launch tournament, which had like a $200,000 prize pool. And there were people out there that were like, well, I would go, and I have to go to this, because for them, spiking a tournament like that, it's considered almost easy money. It's like, hey, listen, like there's a whole bunch of nerds out there who don't play cards. They just like Bandai. So they're picking up the card game, going to an event, and we're going to go there and squash their dreams and get some money. And I think it was in Vegas as well, which is alluring. So there was I think that if it wasn't up against that, the tournament would probably have another 30 to 40 people at it. And of those 30 and 40 people, there'd been like 15 to 20 other pros and big names that would have been there. So, but when you have that, what you have are a bunch of people like us, who cannot get enough of this game and drafting it, especially a set like Outsiders that I think we can all agree is a limited like gem. This
It
is
is
what
great.
it is as advertised. That Brian has been beating this drum, and when you usually hype something up as much as he has regarding this set, you can kind of get let down. But I think that we can all agree that Outsiders Limited, it was thumbs up from everybody who drafted it. So that's what we did on the Friday night, and it wasn't like random people. And I say random, I mean like there was a pod where it's like, okay, you got Yanji, you got Dan Rutkowski, you got Michael Hamilton, you got, whatever. And then there's like 3 or 4 other people waiting, and we'll rotate as soon as we get another pot of 8. And as soon as we can, peel Logan away from the bar. Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty good time.
Yeah, because I think my pod was the 3 floating crew. So
Yeah.
Sam and Jacob and Aiden, and myself and Dagan, and Keith, I believe, was in that pod too. You were in that pod, Flake. And Carolina or Matt. No, it was Matt McInnes. Carolina's Renfield. He was also in that pod, and that is pretty stacked. Like, there's a lot of success in that pod in general. There's also a lot of crazy fuckers. Like, you may like think, okay, what about, like, I didn't have a Michael Hamilton thing, but we have a top 16, player that, a world's competitor and the winner of the Dev Challenge. We have Aiden, who top 8'd the Brawl, then, the next day. We have Matt McInnes is nothing to sneeze at. He is very good at this game. Like, he will win. Both Sam and Jacob can totally play, and then I'm dog shit and Matt's like slightly better, but that's not the point. Like, I'm burning dog shit. Matt's like the freshly laid dog shit on the porch. So I think that that's the difference between us. But like, we were getting those players. We had the Minnesota crew, like, so Andrew Rothermel and Matt Tickle and a lot of people who have had success. But everybody's just jamming. It's not like this cutthroat atmosphere or anything. We're just having a good time. And that's always the best part to me, is that like everybody's actually just having some fucking fun, and they're all laid back and they're just doing the thing. And that's always going to feel the best to me, is that this community gets together to do this shit. And it's truthfully because we all enjoy each other's company and we just want to have a good time. And that's where we were at that on Friday. And that's where we were at on Saturday in the speakeasy, except for Matt and Steven, who were 69ing back in the hotel room.
Well,
but,
and me, who I couldn't participate in half of the speakeasy activities because there was a cool putt golf inside of a bar that was amazing. And I walked around and hung out with everybody, but I couldn't participate because of my torn bicep, which, you guys were talking about how much fun you had the night before, but that's actually how I tore my bicep. Was I was arm wrestling Michael Hamilton because he was in my pod. And that was how he decided who wanted to go first. And it turns out he's incredibly strong in every facet in every way. So.
Are you sure it wasn't bowling with a missized ball?
It was, in fact, bowling with a missized ball, but
okay,
Logan,
that's what
Logan.
I told.
Those 6-pound balls
told
are
so
really...
many people that weekend, legitimately, after that first pod, because Michael Hamilton was in my pod, and so like I started telling people, yeah, I tore it arm wrestling Michael Hamilton, and then people just thought that was the funniest thing ever. So I mean, I can't wait to share the pictures. The folks listening, they won't be able to see it, but I have a disc here. So my MRI was today. And I'm going to share the photos at some point the same way I did when I did the MRI for my brain, because I want to see if there's anything that I can turn into emote art, just like I do with my brain. So
I don't even know what to say to that. Like, hey, Flake, I need to ask you really quick. Can you say Capri Sun?
What did I say? Don't do this to me because I come from a country that you're jealous of.
No, because somebody told me to ask you to do it, and I didn't hear what you said, and they're like, have him say it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this was off the fact that, like, I think Charmer mentioned that he was the dad of the trio between Steven, myself, and him. That's so I said, true. Yeah. And I said, yeah, after this match, he's going to bring us Capri Suns and fruit roll-ups. Is that wrong? I say it incorrectly?
It's Capri.
Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
On the stream, and I remember seeing chat like, what did he just say? And somebody was like, I love the way that he says
We
it.
don't
Yeah,
have those here, by the way. We don't have Capri Sun here or Capri Sun or whatever.
You don't have moldy juice pouches in Canada?
No, we don't. We have nutritious food, like for the
Come to my house
that is ultra
now.
expensive.
I have one for you.
I don't want one though. I don't want any type of liquid that is referred to as drink. I don't want any kind of beverage where the freaking title of the beverage is the instruction of what to do with it. Because when you look at it, you're like, the fuck do I do with this? And it says grape drink. Oh, I have flavor and I have instruction. That's so good, because otherwise I would have probably lobbed this in the same cabinet that I keep my bleach and my fucking Lysol, because who knows what's in here. What more do I need?
Flavor and instruction. What more do you need?
Look, I don't want to do a Dave Chappelle bit here, but have you guys heard of this shit called juice? Like, it's insanity.
He has flavor, he has instruction, but if I know from experience, he also needs prolonged eye contact.
That is...
I mean, don't we all? Like,
yeah.
Isn't that normal? I guess.
Do you want to know why I want to see Flake drink a Capri Sun, though? Here's the honest truth. I want to see him try to put the straw in it without causing
shit
mess.
That would be amazing. Okay, Flake, I will buy you as much Lewintone's wiener as you need, and
I'm listening.
But you have to drink. You have to complete the Capri Sun challenge of putting the straw in the pouch and drinking it.
That we've figured this. Boxes are superior. Like, what are we doing?
In all ways, yes, but we do need you to do this one time, because we grew up with this challenge, like having to complete this set of instructions that is virtually impossible. But I want to see if a grown-ass man can complete this with never having seen it before.
I mean, I'm not surprised that you two idiots have trouble putting the pointy thing into the hole. Like, it's just, seems
there's no hole. You have to drill your own.
Oh, that seems evil. Like,
yeah.
See?
Like, you have to just stab it like you're like that's like a murder.
Exactly correct. 100% right.
And let me guess, the actual quality of the plastic of the straw is like it's transparent. It's so
it
thin.
will bend, but when it does
it.
go in, it will also the contents inside, even though it's malleable, are under enough pressure that there will be liquid that fires out of your mangled straw.
You will be
the moment
hurting for a squirtin' from that pouch. That's the theme here. That's the
everything
theme.
About this sounds so fucking appealing. Like, I will say this, and you guys know this because I tell you every time. How many times have I just been absolutely blown away by the culinary fucking catastrophe that is the United States of America, where I go there and I'm just like, I think it was like I was driving, so I'm like, dude, I just need something small to eat, and somebody's like, well, you can get like a 4 for $4. I'm like, the fuck's a 4 for $4? It sounds like something you get behind like a dumpster at a Wendy's. Like, you know, like you get
it is a Wendy's.
Like, exactly. That's what they said. They're like, it's from Wendy's, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And yeah, I mean, it all came crystal clear. But again, this is the problem: is I come back home. I'm in Canada. I like open my fridge, and there's like I have vegetables and broccoli in there, and the broccoli is like, where have you been? You look like shit. They're like, come give me a hug. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, fucking Christ. We are so far off the rails. I'm even looking at this show notes.
Cares?
I'm like,
you
what
brought
the
me
shit?
on.
Yeah, it's my fault. You are correct. It is my fault. I did not. This is actually what I expected, is to be 25 minutes into the show, roughly. And we have yet to actually recap the Brawl at all, which is great. But how did you guys feel about the actual cast? Like, I didn't get a chance to watch any of it because I was obviously on site doing things.
You didn't even watch my broadcast? Man, I thought we were friends, Logan.
I am behind the scenes trying to get you more work and more opportunities, sir. I'm like your agent that doesn't get paid.
You get paid in Patreon subscriptions.
Yeah, but not from that. And like, really, the money just sits there anyway. I never actually access it.
And adoration, endless adoration from fans.
I do take
all jokes aside. Hey, real quick, I'll talk about the broadcast here in a moment, and I'll let Flake go first, like a true host should. But I will say, the number of people that approached me and said, "Hey, Tan and Grace, I love your work, and then walked away laughing made me so happy this weekend. Like, I had one group where the dude he was brand new to Fab, and he was like here with a friend. His friend sent him up to say like, "Hey, Tan and Grace, nice to meet you," not knowing anything about me or the joke, just to see like if I would do it. And of course I was like, "Oh yeah, man, you know, blah blah blah." And then I could just see his friend like dying in the background. But it was really endearing, the number of times that people approached, because that to me says that it is people that listen to this show, people that watch Instant Speed, people that are now a part of, in my mind, it's this big inside joke that everybody's in on, but it's how you can very quickly identify like who's part of the community too, right? It was it was such an endearing exchange every time. And I've even had people say like, are you sure it doesn't bother you? Or like, are you sure you're okay with it? I'm like, yeah, man, I love it every time. Like it's funny. Like if you mess up my name, beautiful. That's all that matters.
It adds to the legend.
You should have known it was bullshit when they said, "Are you Ted and Grace? I love your work," because nobody likes his work.
See, this is also why I love this, because the joke has so many layers, right? It is a multifaceted, because even if they say Tan and Grace, I love your work, like nobody loves Tannen's work, but nobody loves my work either. So like it's double threaded.
You have real fans now.
I have one real fan. Logan caught me. One buddy from the Rune Terror community, shout out to Prodigy, who also was playing on broadcast. He was one of the Dromais, I believe, against Azalea. He did come up afterwards and say, you know, that it was nice to meet me, and you know that he was excited to be, you know, a Rune Terror person playing in Flesh and Blood, kind of following in the footsteps of Majin Bay and some of the other greats. Noah, again, known in the Rune Terror community as Dark Odious, and so he was somebody who actually recognized me correctly. And I was a little upset that Logan actually saw that exchange, but yes,
I did witness it directly. Yes.
So broadcast, Flake.
Yeah, Flake. How did you feel about the broadcast?
We'll start with you.
I feel like I was got cornered here. So the broadcast is I've worked with Steven many times now, and it feels very natural, him and I, because anytime you broadcast with someone new, there's always a little bit of feeling out process, because you don't know what your lane is, what their lane is, where they're comfortable, whether they want the wheel or they give it to you, or you kind of share it. So it's like this dance. You don't know your dance partner, their tendencies, and what goes on. But him and I have worked enough together now where it just feels natural, and like that's what is great about it, because it feels like a conversation. It feels like him and I are just enjoying something together. It's like watching a movie that we've watched 1,000 times that we both love, that we just enjoy together, and we love to do it. Bringing in Charmer is a great addition, because him and I have worked together a little bit here and there, and him and I are just friends. So we already have that dynamic that we can navigate and kind of add to this trio. And what's awesome about it is, on that final day, it wasn't planned or anything. I was like, let's just do it all. Let's just do the games together. And I think it felt great, because I hadn't laughed that hard in a long time. A lot of the jokes that we were saying, and what's great about these types of tournaments that are, you know, separate from the LSS, like licensed big time callings or nationals, worlds, pro tours, or whatever, is that there's a whole team, there's a production team, there's guidelines, there's you know, marching orders, there's a mission that you need to complete, and you have to sort of keep some sort of decorum, as it were. And at the same time, they want you to have your personality there. That's why they hired you to do it. But I'll be completely honest, like when I'm doing a broadcast for Worlds or PT or whatever, whenever an opportunity for a joke arises, it's usually like, all right, like I'll say that like 30% of them don't get through, because I have to sort of tone it down. Like I have to actively kind of stop it. Here, it's a different story. It's like it pops in my head. We're just going to fire it off, because I know that it's for the benefit of everybody listening and the two idiots that are flanking me, that if I can get Armada to do one of these, the whole head shake of like, or it has happened where he kind of looks at me and he's like, just stop with this. Like he's done the whole, like, just pull the chute on this kind of thing. And Charmer is fearless when it comes to digging those holes and jumping in head first. And then when I toss him a rope, he grabs it and then yanks me into it, the same stupid hole. So that's where we're at. So working with these two, it's literally within that environment specifically, it's very much just a comfort food for me of being with people who I adore in a game I love within a community that I feel at home in. So there's nothing more comfortable than being within that sort of environment, and I love it to death. So I hope that we can do more of them. And that's just, I think that this is just sort of like the first domino to fall for what this realm circuit's going to be, which is, I think it's going to be a pretty big deal.
So what I'm hearing is Steven is Schwarzenegger, you're Tom Arnold, and Charmer is Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, in the same vein that the way he tried to entice me by the bedside. Yes, that is precisely. And yeah. I did ask him to do it slowly, to do it doucement, but I've ended up falling asleep on the couch.
Well, that tracks. Darick, do you have anything to add about the cast itself? Again, I plan on going back and rewatching the VODs. It's just I got home yesterday or whatever it was, and I actually worked because people have jobs, I guess. Well, most people.
I mean, I was also one of them. But I thoroughly enjoyed the cast. I never know what to expect when I'm going into a new situation. So obviously, like, I was the suit guy day one, got more comfortable day two. If you're wondering why that always happens with me, because I talked about it with some of those folks from MinMax, is that some people have different expectations for each broadcast, right? And it's much easier to dress down than it is to dress up in an emergency. So I always plan for what Flake is talking about, right? Like the top end broadcast stuff, you come prepared. Even before we went live, I was like, hey, do we have any like hot mentions, ad reads, things that you want us to hit, like et cetera, et cetera. There's certain things that you do on a broadcast that I just now have a checklist, and I always ask ahead of time, because this was my first time working with MinMax and those folks, right? Obviously, I've worked with the Realm before, and I've worked with a lot of people, so this was far from my first rodeo. But once things settled in and I got comfortable, the only concern I really had all weekend, and again, you probably, if you're a longtime listener, can even still hear it now, is that my voice was failing because I was sick earlier in the week. And so thankfully, the 3-person desk, I was potentially a bit quiet on that second day, but a lot of that was also just like me trying to preserve my voice to make it through the finals. And then there was like a change up that I had to make once I realized that, we weren't just doing 3 rounds, we were doing 4. But on top of that, one of the rounds was going to be the Lord of the Rings extended edition, because we had Brody versus Michael Hamilton, which by itself is already going to be long. And then you throw in the PP pause, which was a thing in and of itself. Holy cow. But all things considered, I felt like it went really well. I had several people say that they liked the commentary because it felt like, 3 friends around a table, right? They said that they enjoyed it because it felt so, I'm not going to say unprofessional. It wasn't that, but just more
organic.
Yeah, just again, like there's a difference between like sports commentary and then like if you've been watching football stuff in the last couple of seasons, like when the Mannings do their commentary, right? And that's like really popular because you get people who know the game and love the game, and then they start talking about it, and that's a different vibe, right? And so that's what they were kind of conveying, and I really appreciated that. And I specifically, one of the people who didn't attend the event but is at my LGS, so in that Discord, they said, I just really loved watching you all slowly descend into madness during the Brody Michael Hamilton game. They were like, by the time that thing hit the end, like we could tell you were all a disheveled husk, but they enjoyed it because they were right there with us. And so it's those things, because whenever you get feedback like that, it makes you remember that you're a value add, because My voice is starting to fail again. Sometimes.
Wow, you are verklempt.
He's getting emotional. His nose is bleeding.
God. I mean, you sound like Al Michaels in basketball right now. I almost killed him. I might have killed him.
Oh, man.
Well, it's a two-man booth now.
How are you doing?
Oh, great today, Flake. I can't do that job.
I'll power it through. There are times when you're a commentator that you feel like that folks aren't there for you. They're there for the game. And this just reinforced that you're still providing some additional value. So that's what I'm trying to say. But again, voice is trying to give out. Logan, you killed me.
Perfect. No notes. Taking applications for a new co-host. So anybody that needs one, you needs to send one in to send it to fleshandpod@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to read over what you can provide to the cast. So if you're watching on video, I'm also Charmer's still dying. He's actually wiping tears from his eyes. Well, let's talk about the results of this thing. This was one of the more I have no better word for this. Different top 8s for heroes that we've seen, mainly because there were azaleas. And that changes the math a lot already, because we're just not used to seeing one azalea, much less the two. Was it 2 or 3? 2. Yep, that were sitting up there that met in the finals. Then we also had, your typical Michael Hamilton on Icelander. There was an Oldhim, a Briar, a Dash, and an Azuri, which was quite, in and of itself, one of the more interesting parts of this top 8 was the drippiest of Dando's takes on Azuri that he worked with some people over in New Zealand on, actually, to building the deck. We had a lot going on, and to me, that is the sign of a really impactful, I guess I should say is the best word, set release. Because this, as week 1, people, rather than staying tried and true, kind of went off the rails and started doing new and different stuff, which is not the norm, right? I mean, you normally you're like Michael Hamilton did, which he has played Old Faithful. That's a lot of people who are trying to win a tournament do. But in this case, you saw entire teams of people coming with things like Azalea, and there were Azurias being played. I played Azuri, but I also got fucking hammered on Friday and was not a human being to play Flesh and Blood on Saturday, and so my Azuri experience wasn't great. But that was not the deck; that was me. So, what did you think of how all this shook out?
Well, a perfect term, by the way, is how did it shake out? Because I think that this is this snapshot of the 7 different heroes in the top 8, and if there were the world's best players were at this tournament. So this is a very good representation of what the meta is shaping out to be. It's not just like a local armory where people are trying out things and, they're playing with the cards that they may have opened in the 2 boxes that they bought. This is like legit players doing this. However, it is the tournament basically fired off like 24 hours after the set was officially released, right? People got their boxes on like the Thursday or the Friday, and then they opened and they pooled and they got their stuff and they went, right? Now, obviously, they had a bunch of time to try stuff out on Talishar, so props to Talishar, obviously, for putting the cards in there. However, it's still very fresh. So when you say, how did it shake out? The way that I would essentially illustrate this is that it's like a snow globe. And basically, when the new set dropped, they took the meta and they shook it. And all the snowflakes are still going around, and you say, oh, look, there's an Uzuri, and there's an Oldhim, and there's a this, and there's a that, and a couple of Azaleas. But given time, eventually that is going to settle. And how it settles, I think you're going to see less diversity and more people kind of eventually figuring out what the best is, what counters it, and what the dark horse is. And that's kind of eventually, it usually settles into like a triangle to a degree, and maybe a square. Like there's usually 3 or 4 points of power within the meta at a certain point. Right now, it's still in flux, so people are still trying to figure it out. Is Azalea good? Damn right she's good. She's very good. She's she is top tier right now because of the new cards that kind of injected some adrenaline into what she's doing. But I don't think that 7 hero top 8s are what we're going to see necessarily at the PT. But for now, this is great. I just think that people went to this tournament knowing what they know from their testing pools. And I mean, we saw 15 Dromais. The most represented hero was Dromai. They just didn't cross the finish line. I don't think that Dromai's bad. I think that Dromai was hunting something that they may not have found. They may not have caught what they wanted to catch because none of them actually bubbled up to the top 8. I think that that's going to change. I think Dromai's going to have a stronger showing at PT as the results of this tournament and the knowledge of these deck lists are now made public, and people will have opportunities to pick them apart. And just like vultures are just going to kind of pick at the carcass, and eventually, when the dust settles, you're going to see that the top 8 is going to be 4 or 5 different heroes rather than 7 or 8. Is that still good? That's still damn good. That's a far cry from the ice show that we had not too long ago.
Yeah, Disney on Ice has been flesh and blood for a minute now. I guess with this type of shakeup, I mean, there are new targets. Like the new Boogie Woman is Azalea. I think that which is saying that out loud is it doesn't feel even close to right. But after seeing the deck perform, after seeing what they gained in Outsiders and how it how it enables the deck to just be a better version of itself automatically, I do think that is right at the top of how everything's going to go. And so quick spot question before we get to the next part here, which no one wants to talk about, but we're going to have to anyway. Do you think the Azalea bounty lasts past Battle Hard Enrichment?
So you're basically saying, is Azalea going to win Battle Hard Enrichment? That's
Correct.
What you're asking.
Yep.
I think this is tough because in your mind, you're thinking there's two approaches to this, which is you play Azalea or you play what beats Azalea. But what beats Azalea right now? Like there are options out there, and that for many people was supposed to be Dromai. Like Dromai was
yeah.
But where were they? I think the whole point of there being 15 freaking Dromais at the tournament was because they were out there, trying to get the scent of Azalea and didn't catch her, and it just didn't happen. I don't know if it was because the round ones didn't work out and the Azaleas won and they didn't, so they never found each other, and it was just downhill from there, or the builds were incorrect. I had a lot of conversation, or overheard a lot of conversation also, from Mara Faris, who was in a booth doing doing her artwork right next to the caster booth, and she was having all kinds of lively debates about the proper ways to play Dromai. Yeah, and she was very adamant that everybody's doing this wrong, and she's like, if I wasn't here, I would be out there crushing that tournament. And I said, well, more power to you, girl, but like ultimately, I think that the hero selection was correct with Dromai, but maybe the execution was wrong, or just the luck of the draw in round 1 was incorrect. But I think that Azalea is going to be the most represented in the top 8. I suspect that we're going to see like 3 or 4 of them. And depending on how the bracket shakes out, I think that it's more likely than not that Azalea is going to pick up her first Living Legend points, and whoever that is going to claim that bounty of however much it is now.
All right, Darick, you're the least degenerate of the 3 of us, which is fucking saying something. But you can take the field at -200 or Azalea at +500. What are you taking?
Ooh, I don't know what those ratios. The short answer is I don't think Azalea wins the Battle Hard.
Okay, so you take the field at -200.
Yeah, it's not because I don't think that she's capable. I think she certainly is. I think that just statistically, the likelihood of that hero winning back-to-back like that is pretty low, even if it is, at the top of the tier list. I mean, she's definitely powerful. She can get the job done. But I do think that some of it was also the unfamiliarity of folks playing against her. Yes, she's not a new hero, but she might as well be for a lot of folks coming into this. And I think that now that the Rabbit is out of the hat, if you will. Folks will know how to game plan a little bit better. And I expect, honestly, just the field itself to be different. Like, yes, Dromai potentially has a good matchup into Azalea, but when you're looking at the representation there, like Oldhim was low, old school Bravo is essentially non-existent. I think there are potentially some good matchups there, depending on your build for Bravo into Azalea, because you can block tall and you can also go tall. And I think that Dromai has some good matchups. And, something that has been on my mind quite a bit here, with the emphasis being on Outsiders and the Outsiders heroes and the Outsiders set itself, getting back to basics, if you will, and going with more traditional combat. I would not be shocked if we see a Kano perform well in the next 2 months somewhere, because I think you're going to see more and more people just not respect blues. Like Sam and his Switchblade list are a great example, because I straight up told him, I was like, I love what you're doing with the build as somebody who's played a lot of Switchblade right now, and I can absolutely see where this is great. The one fear I had about committing the way he did, because he only has 5 blues in the entire list of 80. And I said, like, I'm still just paranoid about wizards. And he was like, well, essentially, he said it much better than this, but he essentially said, I just race him, He had a lot more swag on it, right? Like
Sure.
But he was just like, yeah, I just, eat those pieces of shit for breakfast. But the reality is
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
Right.
I was like, I'll just let you do it.
No. The reality here, though, is that Kano is still capable of outputting a lot of damage. And if folks stop having to plan for Icelander because she drops in popularity, and this field also represented that, I expected a bit more Icelander than we saw. And if folks are not respecting Kano, there's going to be a window where, if Azalea's whole thing is like, against Dromai, I just have to race them, right? And against, Switchblade, if they're going on the Sam list, I have to race them. If this becomes kind of the new mentality, which is, how do I race effectively while also being disruptive? Well, then the answer is, I just go with unblockable damage, and I take your turn and my turn to do it. So I don't think Kano will win the Battle Hardened by any stretch, but I think we're going to see Kano start to do well in a couple of tournaments, just depending on how the meta shifts as a result of this.
So here's I think that's a very, very, very good point. Kano, I think, can probably, Azaleas are not teching for Kano. They're not worried about Kano. Kano's not on the radar in any way, shape, or form for Azalea players. Kano, I think, can absolutely just blow the hinges off of an Azalea. A good Kano player can blow the hinges off an Azalea, because cards, I think, like Red in the Ledger, they don't care about, because they're stacking that one. They have no actions. They just stack everything on top of one another, and then they go at you within the margins. And what is Azalea bringing to the table? AB2 as part of the package. Do they even sideboard for extra AB? Do they even have the blues to make it even worthwhile? I don't even know. The other one about this is that if there's the problem about that being Kano is that if there's still a lot of Dromais that are out there looking to bust up Azalea, that means that the Kanos are going to have to be within that same pool with the Dromais that are going to be shitting out Ashwings like crazy, and are going to be able to absorb a lot of the arcane that's coming their way. Will they have the blues to support it? Is another question, possibly. But again, it's all part of that uncertainty, and we've only had one major tournament to kind of figure this out. When Richmond happens, we'll have a better option, because if Kano starts showing up, then you'll see the Dromai start packing more blues to deal with the Kanos, and then maybe the Kanos stop showing up because they don't need to do it. But the outlier here, and I think you might like to hear this, Darick, is that I think Bravo has a very good chance of being smart, of being good here, because you're dominating cards like Crush Confidence, I think it is, that stops their game text, or whatever stops their game text, whatever blows up their arsenal, whatever you can dominate and pummel and just continuously go at. Bravo doesn't need more than one action off Red in the Ledger. It doesn't get punished by Remorseless. I don't think it really gives two hoots about things like inertia the frailty and all that other stuff, and it comes with a powerhouse fridge to just block out a whole bunch of stuff, right? So
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, I think that there is definitely the potential for a forgot about Dre moment, where Kano just people are like, okay, I can trim some of this because I don't think I need to worry as much about Kano, and then they just come and they run into 6 matchups with people who have AB1 or AB2 with not enough blues to do anything and just start wiping the floor with them, and you see a Kano or two in the top 8 with maybe an easy path to the finals. I think that that's 100% reasonable. I also think that Bravo's in a good spot.
Yeah.
Bravo is another disruptive deck, and what we're seeing are disruptive decks are doing well. Like we've been seeing that for a while because the ice decks were disruptive decks. That's why they're good. That's one of the major reasons they're so good. Azalea is ultra fucking disruptive. Like they fuck up your turns. That's what they're trying to do. Zuri is the same way. Pick your poison. You want to overblock? Okay, cool. You want to underblock? Well, I'm going to snatch you bald with one of these dumb fucking cards I didn't pay for. And that's what that deck's trying to do. So, and then you have your traditional race decks, and like let's call a spade here. Sam was playing Azuri, but he was also playing Briar. Like Ravenous Travel and Light and Strike, Nimbleism seems fucking familiar to me. It was Briar that with free CNCs, which, okay, like sign me the fuck up. Like that seems awesome. I also enjoy a good free CNC. Do you? And so you get decks like that are going to race, and then you get decks that are going to disrupt. There is room for sort of that mid-rangey or super high-end control deck to come in and do some work, or your Kanos just come in and say, well, that's adorable, you can't stop me, and just level them in 2 turns. That is also a possibility. So I think we're going to see some major shakeups happen across top 8s. I do think you're going to see 6 heroes in the top 8 of the Pro Tour. That's my opinion. I'd be super happy to see 4 or 5. I think that that's still great, but I think it will be 6 because I think you'll have 2 Azaleas. I think you'll have 2 Icelanders. They'll figure it out. And then you'll have some mishmash or smattering in the other 4. And part of that is also going to be due to limited being part of the Pro Tour as per always. And that does impact things with the heroes that make Pro Tours. But Richmond is an interesting spot because I still think it's Azalea's world. And a lot of people argue that that's because of the card Codex of Frailty. I hate this. I hate that this is discourse on week fucking 1 of a metagame. And it drives me nuts that somebody's already saying and calling for this card to be banned after a single tournament result. But I am not near the expert as the people who cast the tournament as to the impact of this card. So, Darick, let's start with you. Actually, we probably should start with Matt because it looks like he's falling a fucking sleep. He popped that edible way too early. So what say you? What is Codex of Frailty the real problem that people are saying it is? I say by people, I mean one person just going straight up on the internet and tweeting about it immediately following a tournament.
So calling for a ban on Codex of Frailty is the equivalent of conceding your game on turn 0 because Bravo dominated a dominated attack on their turn 0 against you. It's like, fuck, this sucks. I'm getting crapped on by this thing, and like I'm already starting from a deficit. It's like it's turn 0. You can come back. Things can get figured out. Is the card strong? Yeah, it's very strong. A lot of people didn't know how strong it was when I was buying copies of it for like $8, like because it was so undervalued until you saw it at this tournament. When I was buying copies of it and playing it on Talishar and being like, holy Christ, this thing is a powerhouse. But can we also remember that Azalea was the fucking butt of every joke for like 2 or 3 years by now, and that it's okay when bad decks or bad or undervalued or underrepresented or underpowered heroes get good cards. Like, come the fuck on. Like, and I know off air you're saying you don't like the get good argument, and I don't either. I don't like the just get good. That's not a solution. That's just representing, or that's turning the screws on people who might not necessarily be at the same skill level as some of the best players. But you know what? Like, why aren't we calling for Aether Wildfire to be banned? The whole win condition for Kano decks relies on that thing. That thing represents shitloads of fucking value. Why aren't we calling for that? That hero without that card would probably be, pretty shit too. Like, just being completely honest here. When a bad hero or an underpowered hero gets a really fucking good card, that is not a a bad thing. It's what it needed, for Christ's sake. Like, that's what it fucking needed. And I'm not gonna, you know, go into specifics here, but a lot of the times when people are upset about a card when it just came out, it's because they lost to it, or it's because they got gooned by it. But if you think you're cool because you're not playing what the strongest shit is, because like I'm hipster, there's no style points for winning tournaments. You fucking win or you lose. And if your mentality is I'm gonna go in and be the cool person who brings the knife to the gunfight, well, bitch, you better be the Jedi Master that no one ever heard about, because like I said, there's no points for style. You bring the best shit to the tournament, and a lot of really fucking good players have identified that card is a powerhouse. And if you want a good hero to become a great hero, you pack everything in there. Like I said, why isn't Aether Wildfire getting the same kind of hate? If Kano was back on top and great players were winning tournaments off of crazy sequences of double wildfires into massive turns and burning you to the ground when you're at 40 health, I'm sorry, that they just pulled off a really cool thing. And yeah, it's easy to pull off and the value is high, but so are a lot of other cards, and people need to chill the fuck out.
All right, Darick, your turn.
So my take is, I guess similar, but slightly more nuanced. So I want to point out a couple of things here. First and foremost, it is not an I win card, right? One of the assumptions that was made was that whoever plays it the most wins that round, that game, right? We saw on the broadcast that we had a Lexi player who played multiple copies of the card against a dash, and then Aiden still won, right? He beat the Lexi player, even with multiple Codexes of Frailty popping off. So it's clearly not like game-winningly powerful on its own. However, it can feel incredibly punishing because it's not just powerful, but it's also flexible. And I think this is why people are frustrated with it right now, because it does so many things, and as a result of that, it is good in different scenarios. And if you're somebody who is still learning how to play around the card, it can feel like there were no good decisions to play around it. Because again, you have to look at it from the point of, you make your opponent discard a card, right? And so if you time that properly, then Codex results in almost free damage because you're forcing through potential blocks. Or if you are the aggressive player, right? We know there were some Katsus in the field. They didn't make it onto the broadcast. They didn't make the top 8. But if you're somebody playing Katsu and then they drop the Codex, you get the Frailty token that's going to turn off your Kodachis, for example. That's another aspect of the card. If you are an Icelander or somebody who cares about your arsenal, being forced to put an attack action there can also potentially be a detriment, right? There are many ways, I think, to utilize this card. And it's matchup specific and it's game context specific. So again, I think that it's going to feel like a boogeyman because you're going to, as Flake said, remember when you lose to it, and it's going to upset you. And every way that you lose to it's going to be, I think, a little bit different for a while until players adapt, right? It's new. This was, weekend one. People, I think, had an idea of how powerful it was. Flake was buying them. I was aware of how powerful this particular Codex was. But just because you know something is powerful, it doesn't mean that you really understand or have like the aforementioned like expertise for knowing every way to play around it. And so I think that's where a lot of the gripes come from, in my opinion. So it's kind of the same take, but I think it's a bit more nuanced because people, they complain about things they lose to, but it's also very common, it's human nature, I would argue, to complain about things you don't understand. And this is a complex card that does a lot of things, and so learning to navigate how to play around it is part of the puzzle.
Like, would the card be better? Let me ask you this hypothetically: would the card be digestible for like the crying masses if it said put any card into your arsenal instead of an attack action? Because the I think the problem right now is that it negates a blockable card from your opponent's hand and puts something into their arsenal that they can't use to shore. Like, this
So
could punish it. Well, I mean, it could punish a player who, if the text said put any card into your arsenal and they had a D-react in their graveyard, then they can just put the D-react in there and it makes that card a little less potent, right? Does that make it better?
Possibly, but I would like to point out something as well. Again, this was weekend 1.
Yeah.
And people are still learning. I would not be surprised if in the future we see a rise in the sideboard of Down and Dirty, another card from Outsiders, because people ignored this and they thought, okay, like I get that that's kind of a cool effect, but it
only blocks
not really,
2.
right? Not really hitting the break points that I need. But the closer you look at this, if the meta is going to be, where Dromai is the most represented hero, which was the case, well, that's a popper. It's got 6 attack. And if Codex of Frailty is going to be the boogeyman because they're going to make you discard a card and now you can't block as effectively, well, suddenly Down and Dirty can block. And if you're blocking with the card you just jammed into your arsenal anyway, you're also doing 2 other things. One, you're basically ignoring half of the frailty token that you just got because you're not attacking with the card you shoved in there anyway. And 2, the nice thing with Down and Dirty is that once you get the first one, every time they play any codex, you can just put the same one back. You only need to find one to start negating some of that codex value. So do I think this is the right call? I have no idea, but it's worth testing. We just didn't have sample sizes yet. It's, again, too early in my mind, but I love that they put a card like this in this set. That's why I laughed at the one exchange, because it's like, did you even read the card? Yeah. And then they gave you potential answers in the set they released it in. Like, go take a look. Like, I wanted to just shout, like, come on. There's nowhere near enough testing done on this. I don't care how good you are, how many games you jammed on Talishar. It has not been available long enough to compare to the months of dev testing work that were done behind the scenes. So do I think it's powerful? Yes. Do I think it could someday be banned? Also, yes. It's very powerful, but it's also a dual class card. So in the future, as we get more Ranger support, more Assassin support, I could absolutely see it being addressed in some way. But weekend 1, when we haven't even tried some of the other tech cards in the set, no way.
I think I like what you said about people treating it like an I win card. It's definitely not. It's a powerful ability with powerful. The text is powerful, but and this is small sample size of 1. But I had an opponent that played it against me, and it lost him the game on the spot because I did not have an isolate in hand, but now I have one in arsenal, and I can block with 2 cards and leave the 6 power that's going to be dominated now in my hand, and you lose. Like, it's definitely not a always play this, always win card. And that's what people seem to be treating it like. And it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to have these types of overreactions. I know card players, right? Like, this is a tale as old as time, where people see something like this and they overreact immediately. But it doesn't stop seeming fucking stupid. And maybe they're right. Maybe it is that bad. But I'm not arguing that they're wrong. I'm arguing that there's not enough fucking data. We have a sample size of 7 rounds in a top 8. That's our sample size. It's not that big. Like, give it time to breathe. Don't just overreact and immediately say the sky is falling. I mean, I'm the old man yelling at the cloud, not you fucks.
It's like you said, it's a very strong card, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine. They exist in every other card game. Really strong cards that are not like if the card was legendary, like like what do you want to do? Up the like, do you want to errata it? Do you want to ban it? Like no, like let's just
You're acting like it's Duskblade.
Right.
let
It's not.
let the bastard stepchild that has unfortunately been at the laughing stock of all the hero pool get a tool that they can use to start winning games effectively. And because no offense, Azalea's been able to throw 14-point dominant 14-point dominated arrows at you for a long time now. It just now they have other ways to shore up otherwise like the problem with Azalea has basically always been that if they have to block, their follow-up turn is garbage because they can't really do much. They might be able to send one. They need to pay to load an arrow and then fire the arrow. They needed 2 cards to do some stuff. Now they have opportunity to do stuff with 1 card, and the stuff that they can do with 1 card is pretty nasty. There's a lot of heroes out there that can do some pretty nasty stuff with like a 1-card hand. This just happens to be a nice shore up for a hero that had always had the ability to go tall and dominate their arrows. Now they have a way to both block out your bullshit and send it back. Like it's just like cool serve, another game for Milosh. Like that's kind of how it goes.
Advantage Putnam. Okay. So Jesus Christ. We're gonna move on, I guess. I'm going to really just kind of glance over this, but there is new lore that is up there. Go read it. It's I do love what LSS does with the lore for the heroes. The only thing I think that they don't do is give us an animated series on Netflix. That was a long conversation yet. That is a long conversation that was had in the car ride home. Well, so a couple things about the car ride home. And we're going to talk about Nathan only chives bottom 3 Elo hot chip Benny for a minute here. My wife knows this story, so she's cackling over here. And so this dumb fucking idiot, we're driving to Chicago and stopping for gas. He buys a 1-chip challenge chip. Now, for people that don't know what this is $8 for 1 tortilla chip that is obscenely hot, like designed to fuck your face hot. And so this has been in the car since Friday. It's Sunday. We go to Kuma's, which is a burger joint, heavy metal themed burger joint in Chicago. It's great. The Chicagoland area. There's one in Indy. They're fantastic. And he orders their spicy burger called the Plague Bringer. It's a very good burger, but it has heat, right? It's got a homemade hot sauce, pepper jack. I mean, it's got some shit going on, jalapenos. It's not, it's not going to burn you alive, but it's a good burger, right? It's a good hot burger. And so he eats it, and we're going back to the car. He's like, I wish that burger was hotter. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty hot, but if you like spicy, maybe it wasn't quite your liking or whatever. And I'm like, he's like, okay. And we get in the car. Now, I want to specify very, very, very clearly here. The only liquid in this car right now is the potential bladder contents of the participants of the car, of the occupants of the car, and 1 half-drank flat Mr. Pibb. That's it. That's the entire list. And so this dumb fuck, as we're pulling out of the parking lot and entering onto the freeway, goes and pops open this 1-chip challenge and takes a bite. Now, he immediately goes, oh shit, oh no, that's way hotter than I thought it would be. Uh-oh. And I'm like, okay, he's being a little performative. And then he starts breathing very heavy. He's like, oh God, that's not good. And I'm like, okay, very funny. And then very meekly goes, can you pull over? And I'm like, what the go? No, I can't fucking pull over. We're on a Chicago freeway. I've got, fuck me. Okay, got to find an exit. And so I'm looking for the best place to exit, and all of a sudden I hear the window of my back window of the car come down, and his head is out that fucking window and just puking the contents of his stomach out the window and splattering the fucking SUV driving behind us, just owning their grill. And I'm just like, Benny, I can say a lot of things about you. And he listens to this show. He's a very avid listener and a good friend. I love him dearly. And you know, a lot of things can be said about Nathan Benny. He ain't no bitch, that's for sure. Nathan Benny ain't no bitch. But Benny, you are a fucking idiot. What the actual fuck?
Do you know who else was wishing that burger was just a little bit hotter? The SUV behind you, because if it had been a little bit hotter, we might not have been given a brand new paint job at 70 miles an hour on the freeway.
It's Chicago, closer to 80, 85. But yeah, so at any rate, like I said, new lore is up. Go read it. We were having discussion in the car though, about how there needs to be like, these stories are actually really cool. And a lot of that for us, like we were kind of discussing, we decided that we kind of all came to the consensus that it's because a lot of the characters are murder machines, and that's actually kind of fun. But there's just a lot of really good story that's there that feels like it would be really amazing to watch play out. And I think that that's just a large opportunity that they have to sort of expand the brand and get more eyes, but also just to tell these stories because they're very, very good.
So
but please go read.
I have some insight on this, actually.
Oh, do you now?
Yes, because a little while ago I had some conversations with them, and they were actually picking my brain about certain ideas. They're like, "What ideas do you have?" And one of them was, I said, it was exactly what you mentioned. And the idea that I had was, I'm like, I think that it would be cool to have a show that explored the lore and stuff, but every episode should center on one particular battle. Like a fight, like every episode was like an hour-long
Dragon
episode
Ball Z.
but turned into like almost like Mortal Kombat, because they are warriors and whatever. But like episode 1 is like Katsu versus Reinar, and it's like the lead up to it, and you explore, and it ends in like a 10-minute fight or whatever. But regardless, what I heard back, which actually makes a lot of sense, is that the problem with this is they have X amount of lore written out. They may already even have some written out further. But if it's a success, which you suspect it would be, because a lot of these IPs, I mean, Edge Runners for Cyberpunk, Arcane for League and stuff like that, and whatever, they're all absolute monster smash hits for sure. This is a no-brainer. But the logic that I heard, and I don't know how much of this I can actually say, because who knows? And I'm not going to say names or whatever. But ultimately, the logic is that if you do agree to this and you say, here's our source material, the pace in which they're producing the show and the pace in which you're producing your own content, eventually they're going to surpass you. Look what Game of Thrones had source material, and all those seasons were incredible. The second that they went beyond it and they started taking control of it, they were hijacking the narrative, perhaps not the best way possible. And they're like, well, we need to put out a new season, and we're not waiting for you. So we're going to write it ourselves because we have the rights and we purchased this and whatever. So it's definitely something I think that they've thought of, but I think that they're doing the right thing by saying, dude, we're still pretty young. So maybe we develop another 3 or 4 years of content so that when we do perhaps pull the trigger on this, we have like 5 or 6 seasons worth of stuff that we can actually explore. And by the time that's done, we'll have another 4 or 5 seasons worth of stuff that we've already continued to develop and such. So there's certainly an interesting aspect. And again, this conversation was a long time ago, and who knows what they've changed and whatnot. But ultimately, I think that that's the right move, because you also want to control your IP. LSS has been very protective of their IP, of the control of their stuff. They don't have an official digital client. They have what they want to do. And I agree with you. I want a hat. I want a poster. I want a TV show. I want a video game. I want this. I want that. I want all of this stuff. I want a theme park. I want it all. But at the end of the day, patience is a virtue, I guess. And I would rather have a small amount of excellent quality stuff than it to just go full Marvel MCU and have 4 or 5 movies a year and they're all hot garbage.
All right, so I hear you, but here's my counterpoint. Okay, first, you could do something like Edge Runners that you mentioned, where it's just a single series. It's not written to be multiple seasons. It is one story. And since you were already talking about like, you know, maybe it's one fight per episode or whatever, instead, maybe it's a bunch of limited series that are just the story of a hero. 2, even if they did want to do a multi-season thing, if you're doing it with Netflix, it's going to be canceled after 2 seasons anyway. So that
3.
point is entirely no. It's now 2. We're
is it down to 2?
Yeah,
Cobra Kai got like 4 or 5.
That one is the exception, not the rule. So the way that the Netflix contracts work is that they usually do 3-year contracts, and then they do escalating pay. And so the first year is like low budget, second is mid, and then they cancel before they get to where they're like paying people actual wages, is the short version. And saying this out loud means they'll never hire me now. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. So
no one listens to the show. You're fine.
Yeah, that's right. But here's what I would also point out as well. And because this has been something that I have talked about, and I think that this is a fantastic way for them to try to tell stories or give them places room to grow without even being there yet. Your show doesn't have to only be about heroes that you already have in the game. In fact, I think that that would be a big miss if your show was like just, you know, Dorinthia, whatever, known characters. Like one of the reasons that Arcane was so popular was because like, yeah, you got Jinx, you got Vi, you got Echo, you got people you recognized, but like everyone lost their mind over Silco, who didn't exist in that universe until then. And then when he came to Teamfight Tactics, it was a big fucking deal. And so if you have, you know, a show that's got Arachne and Uzuri and then some other third character that people fall in love with,
Rat Fucker Sam. We're going to call him Rat Fucker Sam.
Sure, Rat Fucker Sam. Imagine when people lose their shit when the next set trailer pops and the key art for it is the character they've all fallen in love with from the show, right? Like there's a marketing opportunity that you gain when you give yourself the ability to tell stories about characters that don't exist in the game yet, because you generate a different type of hype, right? You make them fall in love with the character, and this is a character-centric game, and then you let them play as the character. Right now, we all play as the character, and then we kind of like fall in love with them because we like their play style or, you know, like their art or whatever. But I think that at some point, whether it's now or in the future, that is something that like needs to happen, right? You tell stories, but you also include people that are not in the game yet. Give us some stories about some of those like background characters that have been on art this whole time, like the helmeted guardian character that's on Mangle and a few of the other pieces of art.
Pulverize,
like, yeah, turn them
Righteous
into a character,
yeah.
right? Like seriously, like imagine like you turn that side art piece like into a character, and then you make people like that character, whether he's like the nefarious villain or whatever, and then you introduce him to the game as a playable hero. Like people will lose their shit. That's such a good marketing opportunity that it would be insane not to capitalize on it, if that, you know, is a route that you're going, right? Like this is obviously a big if there was ever a show, but like it just seems so natural to me to do it that way.
Okay. I mean, I think that's reasonable. And you do have a lot of art with a lot of things happening. Like you take the assassin off Infiltrate, you take the warrior off Exude Confidence, you take something else I'm sure that Carolina's cosplayed, and yeah, you can just kind of make them into whatever, you know, character would make sense. And that would actually make for an entertaining show. And then you're right, you do get to spike a little bit when you make a beloved character and then bring it to the game. You actually draw eyeballs from the show to the game, and that is conversion. That's what you want, right? Like that does make sense to me. We're moving on. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Outsiders Printing is a shit show. We have seen evidence of everything from boxes that were entirely miscut, where every card is half of a card, where you have half of one card on the top and half of another card on the bottom. We have evidence of God boxes with 12 plus legendaries and infinite amounts of fables that are floating around out there. This does look to be the Belgium printing only, but so the Japanese printing apparently is fine. So if you're opening paper packs, you have a good chance of opening the absolute juice, but you also might open the absolute nothing. So what's your take on this? Like what can we, is there anything to derive from this at all?
Yes, I am responsible for this as the person who has the worst luck ever. It has all that karma, all of that bad luck that I have accumulated has essentially just been condensed into this lightning bolt that has struck all these magical cases out there in these magical boxes. For every time that I don't open a fable, another one appears, like an angel gets its wings kind of thing, and again, the evidence was on screen when we did a giveaway, which was guess the cold foil in this box, and then I touched it and then there was none. That is the truth. But actually, I mean, yeah, it's a shit show. Like it's if it's a thing where it's like, oh, I got, like, for instance, the case I opened, I thought was pretty good. I got 3 premeditates, 1 foil. I got no codexes, no marvels. But I did get 5 cold foils, one of which was a legendary, and I got 2 other rainbow foil legendaries. And I'm like, 3 legendaries out of a case. I'm taking that all day long. That's phenomenal. I'm very, very happy with that. But I've also heard of people who pulled 1 legendary out of a case. I've heard of people, who have pulled 14 legendaries out of a case, or out of a box, let alone a case.
Box, yeah.
Yeah. So it's when you hit those crazy, anomalies that there's clearly something wrong. I did see the whole miscut, the half and half thing. That was really weird, because usually a miscut card is something that people are like, oh, that's cool, like, it's crimped or it's this or it's that. This is, you do not fucking know what the card is. It's
right,
like,
it's
am
one
I
of
playing,
these two.
Yeah, am I playing head jab or am I playing descended gustwave? Like, am I playing them both? Like, who the fuck knows? Like, it could legitimately both. It is definitely a problem, because the conversation that I've had with a lot of people was, what the fuck happens if one of those boxes or one of those cases ends up at Worlds? Now, keep in mind, everybody at Worlds or at PT, all the people at PT are going to be drafting out of the same box within and playing within the same pod. So if there's a juiced box, you're going to have somebody with a fucking, you're going to see people passing legendaries around, because it's like, I don't need a second flick knives, or I don't need this abyssal, or I don't want a Vambrace. Like, who the fuck needs
No
a
one
Vambrace?
does. No.
Yeah. I'm like, do I really want a second Plague Hive? Like, or I can't use a second Plague Hive, so I'm gonna, like, that's legitimately a possibility. Like, there is gonna be potentially a pod out there that plays the God pod, and it's gonna go bananas. And I hope to God we get that one on camera, because that is gonna be incredible. They're not gonna put it.
No, but there's 2 things here that because they open and stamp every pack, so they would know when they opened a God box, and they can just immediately pull it off. Plus, they could just use the Japanese printing and not have that problem.
Right. You're not wrong there. And yeah, the stamping thing is certainly a part of it. But at a certain rate, it's like, how fucking cool would it be?
I do understand. I get your desire for chaos, because no one loves chaos like I love chaos. It is my favorite thing.
I already envision a world where, if through stampings or whatever, Keith gets his hands on a known God box and then decides to do an event based off of it.
Yeah, he'll draft it.
Exactly. Like, Keith would be like, all right, like, you can win entry into the God draft, right? And you just know that that's going to be exactly the kind of chaos that Keith would bring.
Would introduce into this world. Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
The dude's like, hey, let's play Flip It or Rip It with first edition Crucible at one event. So, like, him being like, hey, let's draft the God box is not far out of the...
No, it sure isn't. That is right in the wheelhouse, actually. That's
so I
about
double
right.
checked. I have 3 Belgium cases on my desk that I'm going to be opening and doing box opening videos for. So we are going to be on the hunt for disaster.
For the God box. Let's go. To make sure that the intrepid listeners of the Flesh and Pod podcast, who have been with me on this journey for 69 episodes now,
Nice.
yes, everybody. Nice. Yes, everybody. Weekend 1, set complete. Playsets done of the entirety of Outsiders. I own it all. So, that being said, I will not be popping more cases.
I don't mean to derail you, but this is actually really important because I owe somebody a special shout out because I've been wanting to own something for a while. I've been on the hunt for it for a while, and I don't know. I kept going back and forth on whether I was even going to pick one up because part of me felt like, maybe I didn't deserve it. Maybe somebody special in my life would get one for me, and so. Of course, I'm talking about Heart of Findall, and I got word that a very close friend of mine was trying to get one for me, and then they did. So I appreciate you, Keith. Thank you for getting me my Heart of Findall. I just love you.
Well, I think that was a shot at me too. That's actually quite awful of you. You fucking cuck. I hate you so much right now. You dirty bitch. I can't believe you do me like that.
Oh,
wait, yes, I can.
Request, but yes.
You piece of shit. Cheers, Keith. Thanks.
Love you, Keith.
Okay, well, both of our questions, actually, our listener questions, actually, well, 2 of the 3, we do have one very special one at the end. Kind of touch on this subject. So we're going to go to the first one from Farcist, one of my favorite names in our Discord. From the legendary Majestics distribution issues found in boxes, like we have seen from the Portland LGS store found on Twitter, how will this issue play into the secondary market? And is Fab a strong enough game to be able to keep the vast majority of its player base / collector base? You know what? It's a good fucking question. So, as somebody that plays the secondary market game a little bit more than most, just because that's a lot of my background is in that, this isn't good. This is the diametric opposite of good. The reason being is you're going to wind up devaluing cards which have historically had value. And when you talk about secondary markets, you really lean into the intrinsic value of a box. What is a box worth? And then what is a set worth? And the quote is always that value has to go somewhere. So when you're discussing these God boxes that are just like chock full of legendaries that suddenly flood the market, especially early in a set release, like right now, last I looked, a Flick Knives was like $60, like for a rainbow foil, which on release weekend is just criminally low compared to what legendaries have really been historically on release weekends. And you start to bleed value into other cards. And a lot of the time, where that value bleed happens is into staples. So if you look right now, a legendary Flick Knives is worth about the exact same as a Codex of Frailty, which is a Majestic. And part of that is that people saw the power of Codex of Frailty. We've already discussed it on this show, and they want their playsets. But some of that is also that there are way more Flick Knives sitting out there already than normal. And a Codex of Frailty is a 3 of, and the value bleed is starting to happen. It's the same story on Premeditate. That card is, last time I looked, was ludicrously high. And for a Majestic from a set that is new. Most of the time they don't spike that hard. And so we're starting to see a little bit of that value bleed, and that does impact the base. Now, can this be fixed? No, not specifically. You're going to have this issue as long as those Cardamundi boxes are out there. People are going to wonder what they have. Now, the big thing is going to be later. And this is maybe a word of advice to people. Maybe one of them is on this podcast right now. But if you have Belgian boxes and Belgian cases sitting around, I wouldn't open them. I would just sit on them Because years from now, when the stories of the Outsiders God boxes become more legendary as time goes, it can be, I have a sealed Belgian case. You never know. There might be one in there, and that just becomes more valuable because of it. Is Fab a strong enough game to keep the vast majority of its player base, collector base? Absolutely. That I don't think is in question. The real in question is when without any response from LSS on this, and I believe wholeheartedly we'll have a response. Darick, you look surprised.
Sorry, there's apparently something that they've officially posted. Like it just popped up on my Twitter, and it's literally related to this thing. Yeah.
Hey, you guys got ahead of it one time.
What the fuck happened?
Bryn retweeted the text from the posting in their tweet. So thank you, Bryn.
From Banished Zone.
Yep. But here, I'll just read it. Let's just go right into this.
Let's do it.
This morning, we received the preliminary findings from the manufacturer, and we wanted to share the details with you immediately. Sample product is taken from the line periodically at this factory and reviewed at the time for quality control purposes, but also stored in the event that we need to conduct an investigation after the fact, such as now. The factory's assessment is that for a very short period of time, Rainbow Foil Fabled and Legendary cards were placed on the Rainbow Foil Common feeder. Based on their initial root cause assessment, this incident occurred for a period of less than 30 minutes across a manufacturing campaign that lasted several weeks. This is consistent with the batch code timestamps of affected product we have obtained. From their analysis, the maximum impact of this error, if it were to have occurred across all product for the entire 30-minute period, would have resulted in 1.6% additional Rainbow Foil Legendary and Fabled cards being released above what was intended for the global print size or run size. However, it is unlikely this error lasted for the entire 30-minute window, and based on this and other supporting data, it appears most likely that the impact has resulted in between 0.4 and 0.8% additional Rainbow Foil Legendary and Fabled cards being released. So it's a very small number overall, according to what they have released publicly. They were also, again, shout out to LSS, because every time there's a print thing, they're very upfront about it. I love their transparency between
on
this
top of it
and surgical. I dig it, but also, yeah, this means that I'm really hoping that I hit the jackpot here with these 3 cases I'm sitting here. I know that you just said maybe I should sit on them, but I'm a content creator, man.
No, you're a content creator. I get it.
I'm gonna totally date myself here as a boomer, but we're gonna do it for the Vine.
Do it for the Vine, baby. No, this is great. Like that's exactly what I needed. And that's exactly what I was talking about, which is absurd to me because we never. Ever
literally on time, like my face lit up. I was like,
I saw
what?
It. That was your O face. I thought you got there.
It's almost tomorrow, also. So like legit.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. So you guys did push it, but it's just fascinating because they're like the explanation is interesting about how they basically ran the. It's like they put the legendary sheet through the common feeder. And it's like they did it for like a couple minutes and they're like, oh fuck, okay. So they they seeded them. That's why there was like so many in a box. They're like, oh shit, okay. So like imagine think about it, like they have 2 different sheets of commons, and it's like, okay, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 1, sheet 2, and that sheet 2 was always legendary. That's why there's like half the packs had legendaries in them, is because one of the commons was seeded as like a fucking legendary every time. But again, 0.4, let's say it's the low end of 0.4% of the stock was affected. How many boxes is that? How many were printed? We don't know.
We don't know yet. Nope. We don't know distribution yet.
Sure, but 0.4 can still be hundreds.
Yes, they can.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, and how many of these have been reported? 3, 4, 5?
4? Yeah, not that many.
So, hey,
Willy Wonka, start going nuts.
I know it's all for the clicks and it's all for the stuff. Plus, you want to open cards and you want to have your collection and everything. I totally get it. I have cases of past sets here. I might just go buy a case of Belgium just to hold it. And like you mentioned,
I'm
because
gonna be
the
honest.
fucking legend of it, the lore of it is attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here's the other dilemma. Let's say case number 1 does have the God box. Now I'm tempted to keep one of the other remaining ones, but also I still need cards from the set. So it's like you said, I need to open stuff.
Oh,
It's
if
not
you
like
want, I'll trade you some Majestics for that case, dude. Don't worry about it.
it's like you don't have a podcast partner who's already set complete with boxes of bulk sitting around and a lot of the extra shit just ready to go.
I'm trying to mentally justify the reason that I'm going to open all 3 of these no matter what. That's all
You're
it is.
also,
I'm
you're also the person who
manufacturing
sent me a
consent
list
ahead
or
of
whatever.
time. But yeah, I also want to point out something as well that stood out to me here. This is very specifically rainbow foils. So we're also talking about like collectability, and we were talking about, where does the value go? Well, then the answer is
now goes cold foils.
If that's your real concern, it looks like that was not impacted by the feeding error. So your marvels, your cold foils, all that stuff likely still in line with where they're expected to be.
Yep, correct. You're exactly right. Which explains why the extended art cold foils have really held their value. Outside of the one that Flake sold for $500 fucking dollars, but the allegedly, and also it was the first in the world. That is important to mention.
Yeah, I just want to say, timestamped and everything. It just made me laugh. Second ever pulled. First of all, how the fuck can you prove that? It's like. That said, yeah, first in the world, and the person who contacted me and wanted that card, wanted it to support me, which I sincerely appreciate, obviously. B, because they're like, it's the first in the world, but also it was your preview card. It was the preview card. It was the first ever one that was sent out into the ether and whatnot. And despite me trying to talk them out of it, they also wanted me to like sign it and do whatever with it. And I said, "Are you sure?" I'm going to ask them a million times. So I wrote on it where it says in the top in the text box where it says Redback Shroud, I wrote first Redback Shroud ever ! And then I wrote cuz it's cool, like assassins or whatever. I wrote I put a word bubble saying like rebel scum and stuff like that, and then I just jazzed it up a bit, signed it, and sent it out there with the little LSS envelope and the whole thing, the whole 9 yards and whatnot. So yeah, that's where the fucking number 1 is. It's with that awesome human being who has it now in their possession.
Yeah, the one that I own after opening it out of a box is not the first, but I still have it. So
they do the same fucking thing.
Well, mine is
the hunt for one is new assassin simp over here.
It is gorgeous.
This is the other reason that I need to open all my cases. Like, let's be honest. I was doing the math, and because I'm gonna want, let's be honest, a cold foil like extended art shroud, but I'm also gonna want cold foils of all of the daggers in each orientation. Like,
nope, you can't. The daggers are only cold foiled in one orientation per dagger.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, well,
because it sent me on fucking tilt.
Well, that saves me a bunch of money, I guess, but I'm still gonna need
one
of
me
each.
money too. But
yeah, are you talking about like the Orbitoclast and all the other stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, because the spider bites have both sides.
Yeah,
but one's a promo and one's pack.
Promo, and correct. I have those, but I just
so these are going to be the same way. I'm pretty sure you're going to have promo, scale peeler, nerve scalpel, and Orbitoclast cold foils. They'll be the reverses.
Who's fucking double wielding scale peelers? Like, yeah, against Guardian it's pretty sweet, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, so that's honestly that's a very comforting is probably the right word thing for LSS to have come out with, and shouts out to LSS for getting that out while we're recording and not after. So maybe after 69 episodes we're turning a new leaf,
or maybe now that they're giving us articles while we can talk about them, we're gonna get a preview card. You're
full of shit. That's not fucking happening. I have more preview cards from Alpha Clash than I will ever have from Flesh and Blood, and I don't even do a fucking podcast for them yet. So, yet. That is coming. Not quite yet, but it is coming. I have so much Alpha Clash shit, and I wish I could talk about it. It's just, it's a lot of fun.
Hashtag no free ads.
Hashtag no free ads. Absolutely. Trust me, these ads aren't free. Iron Mag 44, do you think this print run issues is LSS secret project to bring prices of L's down everywhere? Nope, sure don't.
Like, think we addressed that.
I think we already got there. Oops. So good question, but we got our answer live and on the air. So
yeah.
Still love you, but nope, we got that one answered. Our last question is from Elaine Marie Rose Laundry Hammondtree, and it is, what's your favorite rainy day movie? We're gonna start with Flake. Flake, what is your favorite rainy day movie?
So for me, a rainy day movie is not a movie that I would necessarily like peel off the shelf and be like, pop it in, it's raining, this is what I want. To me, I kind of say a rainy day movie is a movie that, if I have nothing else going on in the day, but I see that this movie is like on TV, I will sit down and watch it through in its entirety. That movie, well, I mean, it's always Lord of the Rings, it's always Star Wars. Those are always, no matter what, like that's just a freebie for me. But outside of those humongous fandoms I have, for me, that movie is The Departed. I will watch The Departed or True Lies, but you know that, like True Lies.
Sure.
But to me, True Lies is on the shelf now. Thank you very much.
It is on the
Logan
shelf.
Peterson.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. Thank you very much, Logan Peterson. You know what I want to do now? It's just to sort of like sidetrack this real quick, because I had mentioned I do not own any copies of True Lies, and now I have a DVD copy. So now I need a Blu-ray and a VHS because I want to complete my collection.
Welcome to hell. Yeah,
this is going to be difficult, but ultimately, The Departed, to me, the cast, the script, the performances, the whole thing is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'll sit down and I will enjoy it. I love mob movies.
Oh yeah.
I love dramas. I love Scorsese. And to me, that movie has some of the best, like, one-liners in it. Like that scene
he
where,
felt funny.
Oh god. That scene the scene where they're finally trying to run the sting on Costello, and they realize that they don't have cameras in a certain spot, and he's like, well, you know, it'd be nice if we had a little more time. And then he's like, and he's like, you know, what do you mean you don't have the fucking cameras over there? He's like, oh, who the fuck are you? And the best fucking response ever, I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
That's pretty good. That's actually a really good take. The Departed is definitely one of my sleeper movies. Like the one where people are like, name a great movie? And I'll just sometimes snap off The Departed because people forget about it, and it's actually quite good. Darick, what's your answer on this one?
Actual like true rainy day movie is Fellowship of the Ring, but I classify that as it's a rainy day I know I'm staying in, so I purposefully go get it out, right? So by Flake standard, if it's always on, I will never turn off Jurassic Park. Like that is my like real comfort movie. But for the purposes of this question, for Elaine Marie Rose Laundry Hammondtree, I would like to mention a movie that's maybe a little before her time. There was a movie called Ghost Dad, starring Bill Cosby.
Oh, don't go there.
And I just want you to know that it spawned a sequel. It was called Ghost Pickle, starring Dill Cosby. And I highly encourage you to check it out.
Okay, I'm gonna give a little history to this fucking thing right here. It's 2 a.m, as we had discussed.
Oh fucking Christ!
He finally puts away his fucking Angry Birds or whatever the fuck he's playing. I'm like, I'm still gonna watch a little bit of what's on, or something like I get up to go to the bathroom. And
yeah, you got to go to the bathroom is what it was.
All right, I went to go to the bathroom.
Spoken to each other in like half an hour, mind you,
yeah.
Right? Like, he just stands up to go to the bathroom.
And no fucking prelude to this. All I hear is like, hey, what about this? And then he's just like, Dill Cosby. And I was like, mother of God. And I had to like wake up to fully hate this guy. Like I couldn't half-ass it. I couldn't just like sleepwalk through my hatred for Darick here, I legitimately had to I went into the bathroom, I splashed some cold water on my face, slapped myself around a bit, and I'm like, fuck you. Just fuck. But then I just died laughing.
Bust out
I was
laughing.
like, yeah, I'm like, because you got to give credit where credit is due. Like, it takes a very specific flavor of psychosis to come up with that kind of stupidity. But I was there for it, and I'm glad. It was like witnessing a star exploding. Like, there's so much violence and chaos there, but there's also beauty. So I'm going to appreciate it.
I'm going to take a screenshot of the text that Darick sent me, and I'm going to post it in our Patreon channel for Flesh and Pod. So if you want to witness
everything,
the timestamp text from Darick Oswald of when he came up with this masterpiece and what the context is, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/fleshandpod. Like, that is how you can witness this beauty of a get. And Elaine, I hope you're listening to this episode, because holy shit, is this good. So I took this one way, and then Elaine kind of took it a different way when she asked the question in the Discord, which, because Elaine, I mean, why ask a question that makes sense? But so my rainy day movie, which is kind of a mood, but also kind of I'll always, if I see it, I am not turning the channel. I am sitting down and we're completing it. Is Drop Dead Gorgeous is by far my what the fuck movie, because that movie is so fucking off the rails. With
is Will Sasso in that movie?
Yes, Will Sasso's in the movie.
That's where that. Okay, it's all coming together now.
Help, Hank. Yeah.
He gets stuck with his overalls at the car.
Yep. And yep. Kirstie Alley playing a Minnesota mother with a perfect accent, forcing her daughter through, Denise Richards, who is only like 4 years younger or whatever, through beauty pageants, with a very young Kirsten Dunst, a very young Brittany Murphy, a very young Amy Adams. That the cast is phenomenal, and they're all doing these horrific Minnesota accents that happen to be spot on. Like, you go to Minnesota and this is what you hear. It's oh yeah, Frida was the oldest living Lutheran, but she's dead as a doornail. It's the goddamn Shriners that won't take down the goddamn Frida sign, the lazy sons to bitches. Every year, every goddamn year, I tell them, goddamn Shriners, you take down the goddamn Frida sign, you lazy sons to bitches. And this is just what you get in this movie. It's like Kirsten Dunst saying, oh yeah, guys get out of Mount Rose all the time for hockey scholarships in prison. And it's just like, you fucking just die laughing. It's like when they're asking Brittany Murphy's character about why beauty pageants. Oh, it's like asking the boys, why do you choose Copenhagen? Like, it's just something that you do. And you're just like, what the fuck?
I used to, like, I think in my mind I was mistaking that movie with Best in Show.
Oh, no, but Best in Show is nowhere close to the tier that Drop Dead Gorgeous is on.
So, but like, they're comedies that are making fun of a very niche thing, like Office Space. Office Space was niche.
Sure.
Like, it made fun of office culture and whatever, but so many people appreciate office culture or Office Space more because they've been around office culture, whereas beauty pageants and that, but like Best in Show was about dog shows and like the weirdos that go there and stuff like that. It's all within the same thing.
It's so good. And
that's actually a good question. I think as a follow-up here is like, what are the comedies that always get you, or what even if it's not meant to be a comedy, like what movies do you go to when you want like a good tickle, a good laugh? Because like
Blazing Saddles and full stop.
So here's the thing, my answer is probably like not something that most folks would pick, but like whenever I'm just like, man, I really
say the Passion of the Christ or something.
No, I mean, I could make like Schindler's List jokes or whatever if I wanted to go.
It's not a joke,
but the absolute real answer is In Bruges. Like, there's something about the dialogue and the exchanges in Bruges that I just hysterically find funny every time. Like, that is a good comfort movie for me every time.
Mine
like,
is
the dude, like, alcoves, do you have this word? Like, it's just it's so good. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is another one
that's also a very good one too. Yep. The movie Teeth is actually one of mine.
Don't elaborate. Don't elaborate.
Just Google it. No, you actually incognito browser, then Google it.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna play it safe here. We discussed this in the car ride about. Remember, I even played the trailer.
You did.
Dagan White, if you're listening, you know
Tiptoes.
Damn it! Anyway, but like to me, the trailer is hilarious because it takes itself so seriously for such a ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for me, it's Office Space. Like even the thing about the like just every time I listen to it, like, or I watch it, like there's the obvious jokes, and then there's the subtle, stupid things of like the guy made $1 million. It's like things like that just get to me so freaking deep. Like that is that movie. But then again, there's that, and then there's movies like Dumb and Dumber that are overtly over the top, ridiculous, hilarious.
My overt choice is always Tommy Boy.
Oh, sure. Mine is Blazing Saddles, mainly because the movie is just so off the rails, and people don't realize that it's because the white people, the entire cast of white people's dialogue was written by Richard Pryor, and that's what makes it so fucked up. And once you have that nugget in your head, you're like, oh my God. And then there's one part that was cut to remove the X rating. And that's where Cleavon Little is in with the burlesque dancer played by Maddie Kahn. And she says, he's the black sheriff. And she says, is it true what they say about guys like you? And then the lights go off, and she says, "Oh, it's true." There's a line after that got cut, which was, "Bitch, stop sucking on my arm," and that is so fucking good. And then you have to realize that it was actually Mel Brooks who wrote that line, and not Richard Pryor, because it sounds exactly like a Richard Pryor line. And it's just amazing. But that entire movie is such a caricature of like a period of time that is not exactly representative of when it happened, that I love. But there are so many like of those overt, like the best line in my mind, like The Big Lebowski, is obviously "You're not a golfer." That is the funniest line in that movie by a million miles.
Oh, that one is up there, and I don't know why it doesn't make sense because it's not even close to being objectively funny. But the line that I always immediately think of when I hear Big Lebowski,
I don't know. You fix the cable?
No. It's nihilist. Fuck. Say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism. At least it's an ethos. Like every time.
Also great. And then in John Wick, it's simply the line, "Oh."
Yeah.
It's after John Leguizamo's character tells the mob boss that the guy whose dog got fucking killed was John Wick, and the response is just, "Oh." Like, all you need to know. Like the entire movie is explained.
I like the line in like, again, there's so many quotables in Dumb and Dumber, but the whole thing when they're just kind of like, "Oh, no luck finding a job, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's nothing out there unless you want to work 40 hours a week. Yeah. Like, they're so clueless. Absolutely clueless.
Those are as good as cash, my friend. Those are IOUs.
Those are IOUs. We're just what we need to get by, and then we pay everything back. Every penny. Yeah. Oh, Lordy.
Classic. I'm glad that we got into that one. That was a fun one. We're gonna close up shop here, boys. It's almost been 2 hours, and I still have to edit this thing because if I don't have this for people's drive time to work, they fucking eviscerate me. It's the weirdest thing. But god damn it, Patreon shout outs. I forgot to open that tab, but please join us on patreon.com/fleshandpod. Let's shout out our patrons if I can find the page. I'm doing this in real time because I forgot to have it pulled up ahead of time. Flake, you're supposed to save me from myself.
So
maybe not. Maybe fuck
Elaine.
yourself.
Shout out to Dill Cosby. Shout out to
we're not shouting out Dill Cosby, you piece of shit.
Shout out to the future patrons who will love that joke.
They will absolutely love that joke.
I will say this. We the three of us together, obviously we're never going to get through what we need to get through, and we're like at the 2 hour mark, but I have Brody on the podcast this week. We're recording tomorrow, and just so you know how much of an absolute fucking rock star this guy is, like absolute fucking Chadtopia, I'm like, Brody, you want to be on the pod tomorrow? It'd be really cool. Yeah, absolutely. How does midnight sound? I was like, the fuck?
The fuck? What are
I'm
you
like,
doing?
Look, I'm like, dude, I don't want to pull one of these on you, but shouldn't you be in bed? he's like, yeah, I'm free at like midnight. I'm like, what are you are you a dance? Like, what the fuck do you do? Are you an assassin? Like, what are you?
Tuesdays is meal prep day, and he's making all of those sandwiches that he packs for the
Yeah.
rest of the week.
But it was
he has a pee-pee pause between 9 and 11:45.
Yeah.
So
well, no, he just schooled the world at Flesh and Blood this weekend, and he's like, yeah, I have to go to my armory. You don't have to go. You just killed everybody, but he's gonna go play. This kid is on a fucking
Why
mission,
not?
So yeah, at
Okay,
midnight, I'm
like,
recording with fucking
local necks are
Brody
gonna step on
Spurlock in
themselves.
24 hours from now.
All right. Well, we're going to shout out our associate producers, which are Andy, Kenny, and May. Our executive producers on up are Chris W., Nick D., Josh, Popo Mike, Ed, Philip, Taylor, and Trevor. Thank you all so much for being patrons. Again, if you want to be a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. The link is in the show notes. There are 4 tiers right now. I will be changing those probably before next episode. So please tune in for that. I just want to do more different shit. I'm kind of bored. If you want to contact us, you can find the show at FleshPod on Twitter, which still just we get a lot of porn follows, and I still can't figure out why. And you can also just find us in the Discord, links in the show notes. And you can email us at fleshandpod@gmail.com. I will remind you that all complaints will go directly to the Flesh and Pod legal team, which is still the trash can next to Jordan Kennedy's desk, but also a subsidiary of Black Hole Legal. Darick, where can they find you?
They can find me at Tan and Grace. And
At the Tan and Grace.
The Tan and Grace. Yeah, don't fuck around, dude.
I'm Charmer on Twitch, Charmer on YouTube. That's Charm3R. And then I'm that Charmer on pretty much all the social media stuff. I'm most active on Twitter, though, because I'm lazy and I can get to it easily from my phone. But other than that, I'm everywhere.
Flake, what about you? Plug your shit.
I'm at Flesh Rod at.
Please go get that right now.
I should. We should just lock that down straight away. I am at WatchFlake on Twitter and Twitch. I do play Talishar a few days a week, probably about 3 or 4 days a week, depending on what's coming up. It's a little slower now because there's no competitions that I'm going to be playing. But I do like to jam some games every now and then. The podcast, the Instant Speed Podcast, is every Thursday. And you can catch that Twitter at Instant Speed Pod. It's on YouTube at youtube.com/983media. We're part of the growing 983 Media empire, I guess, as it were. And yeah, check me out. It's great to be here. I love you both very, very much.
We love you too, and we will never be on 983 Media because I cannot get past that 30-second barrier of saying fuck.
No, you can't.
And so there is that. Also, there is an Instant Speed Patreon. He just never likes to talk about on other people's shows. But that's patreon.com, I believe, /Instant Speed Pod. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I don't
want to like shill money stuff on other people's.
I want you to shill money stuff on other people's if the other people are myself and Darick, because we want you to have nice things.
I do have nice things. I have friends, and I share hotel rooms with psychopaths like this.
and Dill Cosby randomly, which you wake up a little bit in pain and walking funny, but I just can't. Jesus fucking Christ!
Literally, like I can't preface this any more than literally this idiot with his glassy eyes was like, "Hey, what about this?" Like.
And you can tell he probably just like was sitting there staring at the ceiling for a few minutes, and he just looked down and just said to himself, with no one in the room, "Dill Cosby."
Yeah, some people have brilliant ideas. Some people change the world. This guy's like, Dill Cosby. Yeah, that's a thing.
That's a thing. Okay,
because
well,
woke up in a sack in the Hudson River.
Woke up in the Hudson River in a sack.
All I can say is, please like and subscribe on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, or don't. I guess if you were listening to this show, it's probably way past the point that you're going to give us a 5-star rating. But I do want to thank
episode before it goes as long as a Brody game.
Ooh, we're still well short of that.
Okay.
But I would like to thank Matt for coming on and being a part of the show. We love having you on. We love giving you the vacation you so richly deserve from being overtly serious, which you never are anyway. But I do believe that's all I have for this week. Anybody have any parting thoughts before I close this bitch up?
Maybe not. Maybe fuck
Maybe
yourself.
go fuck yourself.
Perfect. No notes. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.